Last year I spent about $2 on a single avocado at the grocery store. I ate the fruit, and the pit, the part you've thrown away your whole life, is now a 3-foot tree sitting in a pot by my back door. In about 4 years, that tree will start producing fruit. In 10 years, 100+ avocados a season from one pit. The reason you've never heard this framed honestly is that the entire commercial avocado business depends on you believing it cannot be done at home. It can. Gloria's been doing it on a San Francisco balcony for nearly 20 years. Today I'm going to walk you through her exact method. And stick around to the end because there's one household ingredient I add to the water in week 2 that almost nobody mentions, and it's the difference between a sprout and a strong tree. Here's the thing, the reason this method got buried isn't mysterious, it's economic. In 1935, a postman named Rudolph Hass patented a single avocado tree growing in his yard in La Habra Heights, California. That one tree, the mother tree, produced a fruit so good and so shippable that the entire commercial industry pivoted around it. And here's the part most folks have never heard framed honestly. Every single Hass avocado sitting in a U.S. grocery store today traces back by grafted clone to that one 1935 tree. Every one of them. It is, genetically speaking, the same tree, copied over and over for nearly a century. The commercial industry standardized on grafted nursery stock for a reason that makes sense if you're a shipper and almost no sense if you're a person with a kitchen. Grafted trees produce uniform fruit, same size, same ripening window, same skin texture. Pit-grown trees produce variable fruit. The fruit is still a real avocado, still edible, often genuinely good, just slightly different from the parent. That variability is unacceptable for commercial palates. It is completely fine for your back patio. So the nursery industry sells you a grafted tree for $40 to $80 a pop. Millions of them, every year. And the standard line you've heard your whole life, pit-grown trees won't fruit, they won't grow true, don't bother, is technically accurate for commercial purposes and functionally a lie for home growers. The U.S. avocado market is a $7 billion business, and it has no incentive whatsoever to correct that misinformation. Meanwhile, the average household tosses somewhere between 50 and 100 viable seeds a year, straight into the trash, while paying $2 a piece for the fruit they came in. Gloria figured this out on a San Francisco balcony around 2005 because nobody told her she couldn't. That's almost 20 years ago now, and what she taught me is what I'm about to walk you through. All right, let's get into it. The first layer is the setup itself, and it's almost embarrassingly simple. You start with a ripe avocado, one you've eaten within 24 hours because the pit is freshest then. You scoop it out, and the moment most folks throw the pit away is the moment Gloria taught me to stop. Wash it under the tap. Wipe off the flesh. Do not, and this part matters, do not scrub off the thin brown skin clinging to the pit. That brown skin is not garbage, it is a seed coat. It's protecting the embryo inside, and if you sand it off with a brush, you can damage what you're trying to grow. Now you look at the pit and you find the two ends. One end is slightly flatter and a little rougher. That's the bottom, where the root is going to come out. The other end is more pointed. That's the top, where the stem will emerge. Get that backwards and nothing happens for months. Get it right and you're on your way. Then you take 3 toothpicks, just 3. Stick them into the pit at roughly even spacing around the middle, angled slightly downward, not straight out, slightly down. Those toothpicks are the suspension rig. You set the pit on the rim of a glass jar, pointed end up, flat end down, and you fill the jar with room temperature filtered water until the bottom inch of the pit is submerged. The toothpicks hold it there. Put the jar somewhere with bright but indirect light. Not blasting summer sun, just a kitchen counter that gets warm daylight. Aim for 65 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit, and then you change that water every 5 days. That's it. That's the entire layer 1 setup. A jar, 3 toothpicks, tap warm water, and a window. And that is exactly why nursery catalogs will never show you this picture, because the whole industry needs you to believe this requires equipment you don't have. The second layer is why this works at all, because if you don't understand the mechanism, you'll quit at week 3 thinking you failed. Here's what's actually happening inside that pit. The pit is the seed. That's the sentence most people have never had said to them out loud. The pit you've been throwing out your whole life is the complete reproductive seed of the avocado tree. Inside it, wrapped in meristematic tissue, and I'll translate, that just means the active growing cells the plant uses to make new roots, new stems, new leaves. There is a full embryo, a whole tree in miniature, waiting for water and warmth. The brown skin I told you not to scrub? That's the seed coat. Its job is to keep the embryo safe until conditions are right. When the pit sits in water at the right temperature, the embryo wakes up. Water passes through the seed coat, the cells inside start dividing, and the pit cracks open along its natural seam, the line you can see running from top to bottom. The root pushes down through the bottom of that seam, and the stem pushes up through the top. The seam isn't a flaw, it's a door. And the reason commercial nurseries don't lean on this is that this process produces a tree that's genetically its own thing, not a clone of the Hass mother, which, again, is a problem for shipping uniformity. It is not a problem for you. Layer 3 is the timeline. This is the part where most folks need patience, and I want to be honest with you about it, because the internet is full of timelines that aren't real. Here's what actually happens. And these are the numbers from Gloria's notebook and from my own tree by the back door. Weeks 2 through 6, the pit cracks open along that seam. Sometimes faster, sometimes slower. Don't panic if week 3 looks like nothing. Under that brown coat, things are moving. Weeks 6 through 10, the taproot emerges and pushes down into the water until it hits about 6 inches. Weeks 10 through 14, the stem comes up and the first leaves unfurl. Now, here's the step almost everyone skips, and it's the step that turns a sad single-stalk houseplant into an actual tree. When that stem reaches 6 inches, you cut it back to 3 inches. Just snip it. I know, it feels insane the first time. You've waited 3 months, you finally have growth, and I'm telling you to cut half of it off. Do it anyway. Cutting it back forces branching. The plant responds by sending out 2 or 3 new shoots instead of one weak central stalk. That's what gives you a tree shape later instead of a stick with 3 leaves on top. Around month 4 to 6, when the taproot is solid and the stem has branched, you transplant into a 1-gallon container. Soil mix is 70% regular potting soil to 30% coarse sand because the pit hates wet feet. Drainage is everything. By the end of year 1, you're looking at 18 to 24 inches of tree. Year 2 to 3, first major pruning and up pot to a 5-gallon container. Year 4 to 7, first flowering and first fruit set. Year 8 to 10, mature production. 80 to 150 fruits a season on a well-managed container tree. Now I want to be straight with you, because I respect you enough not to oversell. A grafted nursery tree will fruit in 2 to 3 years. Pit grown takes 4 to 7. That's the honest gap. But the grafted tree cost you $40 to $80. The pit grown tree cost you the price of the avocado you already ate. $2. And once that tree starts producing, it'll keep producing for 50+ years. The math gets very loud, very fast. And that is exactly the kind of math the nursery industry would rather you not run. Layer 4 is the part that even people who know the basics don't know. And this is straight from Gloria. The first one is counterintuitive enough that I argued with her about it the first time she said it. Container restriction actually speeds up fruiting compared to planting in the ground. In the ground, the tree spends its energy spreading roots. It can take 10 or 12 years before it decides it's mature enough to reproduce. In a pot, the roots hit the wall of the container. The tree reads that as maturity, and it shifts energy into flowering and fruiting earlier. That's why Gloria's container trees on a San Francisco balcony fruit on a faster clock than most ground-planted backyard trees in the same zone. Her oldest tree has been in the same 7-gallon pot for 8 years. She root prunes every 2 years, pulls the tree out, trims the outer roots back by a third, sets it back in with fresh soil around the edges, and only uppots when the tree absolutely demands it. The second piece of layer 4 is what she calls her 2-pit trick. Avocado flowers have a quirk. They're functionally male at one time of day and functionally female at another, which makes single tree pollination spotty. Gloria starts 2 pits at the same time in 2 adjacent pots and lets them grow side by side. When they flower, the 2 trees cross-pollinate each other, and her fruit set jumps somewhere between 30 and 50% compared to a solo tree. 2 pits, 2 pots, 1 small balcony. That's the whole trick. And I'll tell you, the first time I visited her balcony and saw it laid out, the 2 avocado trees by the railing, the 3rd-year ginger thriving in the pot beside them, basil flowering and pulling in bees from somewhere in the middle of San Francisco, I understood something I'd been missing for a decade. This isn't about land. It isn't about budget. It's about somebody telling you the truth about what a pit actually is. My own tree, the one by the back door right now, came from a $2 grocery store avocado I ate one Sunday afternoon, 3 feet tall, branched out from that early cutback, sitting in a 5-gallon pot. I haven't paid $40 for a nursery tree. I haven't even paid for a seed packet. I paid for lunch and kept the part everybody else was throwing away. Now, if what I just walked you through is starting to make sense, and you're realizing you've been tossing the seed of a 50-year fruit tree in the trash every couple of weeks, I want to point you to the place I wrote all of this down. The avocado entry is in Chapter 5 of my book, The 30-Day Kitchen Scrap Garden Protocol. That's the Regrow Encyclopedia, where I cover the pit-to-tree method alongside 20-plus other scraps with line art diagrams showing water level, the toothpick angle, and the root development stages. $17 at backyardbuddybooks.com. If you're watching on your TV, grab your phone and point it at the QR code on screen. If you're on your phone or laptop, the link's in the description. Take a second. I'll wait right here. No rush at all. Now let me tell you why this method got buried in the first place. Here's the thing. The commercial avocado business isn't lying to you exactly. It's leaving out the part of the truth that costs them money. Shipping an avocado from a grove in Michoacan or Ventura County to a grocery store in Cleveland requires fruit that ripens on a predictable window, sizes within a narrow range, and stacks in a crate without bruising. Pit-grown trees produce genetically variable fruit. One tree's avocados might be a little smaller, a little earlier, a little different in skin texture. For a home grower eating off her own balcony, that variability is interesting. It's your tree, your fruit, your kitchen. For a packer shipping 10,000 crates a week, that variability is a financial disaster. So the industry standardized. Every commercial Hass avocado you've ever bought traces back to that single 1935 mother tree in La Habra Heights. Every nursery Hass sapling is a graft taken from a clone of a clone of a clone of that original. And those grafted saplings retail for $40 to $80 a piece. Millions of them sell every year. That revenue model only works if the average person believes a grocery store pit can't become a real tree. Now, I want to be honest with you, because I think you deserve the honest version. A grafted nursery tree will fruit in 2 or 3 years. A pit-grown tree takes 4 to 7. And the fruit from your pit-grown tree won't be a perfect Hass clone. It'll be a real avocado, often a genuinely good one, but slightly its own thing. That's the counter-argument, and it's fair. And here's what the counter-argument leaves out. The nursery tree costs $40 to $80. The pit costs $0. A productive avocado tree lives more than 50 years. The grafted tree gets you 1 to 4 years of head start. The pit-grown tree gets you the other 46. And the average household throws out 50 to 100 viable pits every year, every one of them carrying the same 50-year potential. Over a decade, that's hundreds of seeds in the trash, Any one of them could have been the tree shading your patio right now. Gloria figured this out because nobody told her she couldn't. That's the only reason. And once you've seen one pit crack open in a glass jar on a windowsill, you can't unsee what the industry needs you not to see. Now let me give you the thing I promised at the start. The household ingredient I add to the water in week 2. It's a quarter of a plain, uncoated aspirin tablet. Not the coated kind, not the flavored kind, not the buffered kind. Plain aspirin. You crush it, and on the first water change of week 2, only that one change, not week 1, not week 3, you drop it into the room temperature filtered water with the pit. Here's why it works. Aspirin contains salicylic acid. Plants make salicylic acid themselves as a stress signal hormone. It's how a plant tells itself something's pressing on it and it needs to respond. A tiny external dose, right when the pit is starting to wake up, but before the taproot has committed to its shape, tricks the embryo into responding as if it's under pressure. Instead of pushing out one fragile, vulnerable taproot, it branches. You get a thicker root system, multiple feeder roots, and a sturdier trunk caliper before the seedling ever sees soil. When you transplant to that 1-gallon pot at month 4 or 5, the shock that kills so many homegrown avocados just doesn't hit the same way. This is what Gloria taught me. And honestly, the only place I've ever seen it written down is in her notebook. The commercial nurseries do the same thing with proprietary root-stimulating hormones. They sell each other at industrial volume. Same mechanism, salicylic acid signaling. But you've had aspirin sitting in your medicine cabinet the whole time, and nobody's ever connected the two for you. All right, before I let you go, if today showed you what one free pit can do, the long game version of this is in Chapter 9 of the book, The Long Game, Perennials and Self-Sustaining Systems. That's where I lay out fruit from scraps, perennial container arrangements, and Gloria's 20-year balcony system as the proof that one good setup keeps feeding you for decades. It's the guide I wish I'd had 10 years ago when I was killing tomato plants in my Portland apartment. $17 at backyardbuddybooks.com. TV viewers, grab your phone and scan the QR code on screen. Phone and laptop viewers, the link's right there in the description. Take your time pulling that up. I'll be right here. So that's how one $2 grocery store avocado becomes a 50-year tree on a balcony in San Francisco or a back patio in Sacramento. Pit, jar, toothpicks, a little aspirin in week 2, and patience. Now you know what the nursery catalogs and the grocery shippers would rather you not have framed this way. Next week, I'm going to walk you through the ginger you can keep alive in a single container for the rest of your life. Another method the spice industry would rather you didn't run yourself. Drop a note in the comments and let me know if you've got a pit started or if you're going to start one this week. I read everyone. Until next time, keep growing your own food, my friend.